So dear students, today we will study about optical isomerism. In first year you have studied isomerism. So what is isomerism? Isomerism is a phenomenon where the compounds have same molecular formula but different structural formula or different orientation of groups in space. They are known as isomers and the phenomenon is known as isomerism. Now you have studied that isomerism is of two types, structural isomerism and stereoisomerism. So in the first year you have studied about structural isomerism and also you have studied stereoisomerism where you have done geometrical isomerism, cis and trans isomerism. In stereoisomerism, two types are there. One is geometrical isomerism and the other one is optical isomerism. So geometrical isomerism you have studied in first year. Now optical isomerism we will study here in second year. Now what do you mean by optical isomerism? This optical isomerism, those compounds which have same molecular formula, which have same structural formula, same physical and chemical properties, but they show different behavior towards the plane polarized light are known as optical isomers, and the phenomenon of rotating the path of plane polarized light is known as optical isomerism, and such compounds are known as optically active compounds. Once more, the compounds having same molecular formula, same structural formula, they have same physical and chemical properties, but they show different behavior towards the plane polarized light, right, are known as optical isomers, and the phenomenon of rotating the path of plane polarized light is known as optical isomerism, and the compounds are known as optically active compounds. Now what is plane polarized light? You know that ordinary light, right, it has its electric vectors and magnetic vectors which are vibrating in all the direction. You see here, this is ordinary light, and in this ordinary light these electric vectors, these are vibrating in all the direction which is perpendicular to the plane of propagation of light, right. Now what happens when you pass this ordinary light through a prism? This prism is known as Nicol prism, right, and this Nicol prism, it is made up of calcite. It is a crystalline form of calcium carbonate and it acts as a polarizer here, right. This Nicol prism, it acts as polarizer. So when you pass this ordinary light through this polarizer, which is Nicol prism, then what happens? It will absorb all the vibrations except the vibration in one plane. See here, it is now converted to the vibration in one plane only, and such light which has vibrations in only one plane, it is known as plane polarized light. Got it? That ordinary light consists of waves which is vibrating in all the planes, plane which is perpendicular to the line of propagation of light. If such beam of light, it is passed through the polarizer, the emitted light waves, they will vibrate only in one plane. Such light which has vibration only in one plane is known as plane polarized light, and this Nicol prism is known as polarizer. Understood? Now there are certain substances which can rotate the path of this polarized light either towards the left hand side or towards the right hand side. Such compounds are known as optically active compound, and the property of rotating this plane polarized light. See, this is plane polarized light. Now when you pass this light through the solution of the compounds, it will rotate the plane on the path of this plane polarized light either towards this side or towards that side. So that property is known as optical activity, and the compounds are known as optically active compound, right. Now how will you measure that optical activity? See, more this angle of rotation, more will be the optical activity. So how will you measure this optical activity? The apparatus which is used to measure the optical activity, it is known as polarimeter. So here on the board I have drawn this polarimeter. This polarimeter, it consists of one Nicol prism which acts as polarizer. Then there is one polarimeter tube. In this polarimeter tube we will take the solution of the optically active compound. See here we have this Nicol prism and this is your polarimeter tube. Inside this polarimeter tube we will take the solution of the optically active compound. Then there will be further one more prism that is known as, again it is a Nicol prism, and here it is acting as a analyzer. It will tell you that where the plane of polarized light, path of plane polarized light is rotated, either to the left hand side or towards the right hand side. Got it? So what happens, how we do the process? There is ordinary light which will be having the vibration in all the planes. When this light is passed through this polarizer, that is Nicol prism, then it will be converted to plane polarized light. Now this plane polarized light, it will be passed through this polarimeter tube. What is this polarimeter tube? It is containing the solution of the compound which we want to test, that whether it is optically active or not. Then what will happen? It may rotate the path of plane polarized light or it may not. Suppose it has rotated the path of plane polarized light, then through analyzer we can detect that how much the path of plane polarized light is rotated or where the path of plane polarized light is rotated. So this instrument is known as polarimeter. Polarimeter. Now there may be three type of results. What are those results? Either the path of plane polarized light remain undeflected, right? If it remain undeflected as such, then it means that the compound is optically inactive, right? Because it is not rotating the path of plane polarized light. Now the second result may be that the substance may rotate the path of plane polarized light in the clockwise direction. As you can see here, it is rotating the path of plane polarized light in the clockwise direction or in the right direction. So such compounds are known as dextrorotatory compounds, and it is represented by D form or plus form. It is designated by D sign, small d, not capital D, D or plus sign. Or the third result may be that the path of plane polarized light may be rotated in the anti-clockwise direction, and when it is rotated in anti-clockwise direction, it is known as L form or minus form, and the compound is known as levorotatory compound. Here it has been rotated towards the clockwise direction, and this is known as dextrorotatory or D or plus form, right? Whereas this is known as levorotatory or L form or minus form. Understood? Now as I have told you that more the rotation, more the angle of rotation, more this theta is, more will be the optical activity. Now how will you measure that whether how much the angle of rotation is? Because for different compound the angle of rotation may vary, and it may also vary based on the concentration of the solution you are taking inside the polarimeter tube. So we may have to fix one standard concentration, and the length of this polarimeter tube should also be a constant. For this we take a monochromatic light. What do you mean by monochromatic light? A light which has only one color, because you know that ordinary white light, it has 7 colors. So instead of taking the mixture of 7 colors, we will take monochromatic light which is single color, and that monochromatic light first of all we will take, then it will have fixed wavelength. You know that if there is a single color light, its wavelength will be also fixed. And then we have this polarimeter tube. We should take this 1 decimeter length of the polarimeter tube, and inside it the solution should have the concentration of 1 gram per centimeter cube. When these conditions are satisfied and at a fixed temperature, we measure the rotation. and that rotation is known as specific rotation. Understood? What rotation? When we take monochromatic light, and that light usually taken is yellow light. When we take a monochromatic light and pass it through the 1 decimeter length of polarimeter tube containing the concentration of the solution 1 gram per centimeter cube at a particular temperature, the angle of rotation of a compound is known as specific rotation, and it is designated by alpha. Here alpha is theta by L into C, where alpha is your specific rotation, theta is angle of rotation, L is length of polarimeter tube, C is concentration. So the unit will be, for theta it is radian, for length it is decimeter, and here gram per centimeter cube. So centimeter cube will come here. So radian centimeter cube by decimeter into gram. So this is the unit for specific rotation. Now next we will study that what are the conditions required for optical activity. Now you know that if the compound is optically active, it means when we pass through the polarimeter tube, then it will rotate the path of plane polarized light either towards the left hand side or towards the right hand side. But every time it is not possible that we go to the lab and find out that whether the compound is rotating the path or otherwise not rotating. So can we identify the optical activity by seeing the molecule? So yes, there are some conditions which define that the given molecule is optically active. So what are those conditions? The first condition for that is disymmetry. Disymmetry. Now what do you mean by disymmetry? Disymmetry means that the molecule should not contain plane of symmetry or center of symmetry. Now what do you mean by plane of symmetry or center of symmetry? Now see this letter A. Do you know that whether it has plane of symmetry? Plane of symmetry means this molecule can be divided into two equal halves. So let us see. So yes, this A can be divided into two equal halves, hence it has plane of symmetry. Similarly, see this B. Does it has plane of symmetry? Yes, because it can also be divided into two equal parts, means it is not disymmetric. Now let us see the letter P. Can it be divided into two equal halves? So whether we divide from this plane or we divide from this plane, this P cannot be divided into two equal halves, means the P is disymmetric. Similarly, the letter R, it is also disymmetric. Similarly, Y, F, and you can get many more examples of disymmetric molecule, and the best example for your disymmetric molecule is your hand, right? Your hand, which cannot be, very poor drawing, so once more I will try. Your hand, it is also disymmetric because it cannot be divided into two equal halves. If we will divide it from this plane or we divide from this plane, it cannot be divided into two equal halves, hence it is also disymmetric. Understood? So for compound to be optically active, it should be disymmetric, means it should not contain plane of symmetry or center of symmetry. Now let us see which is the second condition. The second condition for optically active compounds is that it should contain at least one chiral carbon. Now what do you mean by chiral carbon? Now again, your chiral means handedness, means it should be like our hand, means disymmetric. Now this chiral carbon, it is always sp3 hybridized, means it will be bonded by 4 single bonds, and all these 4 bonds should be attached to different atoms, right? If such a molecule is there, if such a carbon is there, it is known as chiral carbon. and this is chiral center, right? And such a molecule will be always asymmetric, not asymmetric, disymmetric molecule. It will not have plane of symmetry or center of symmetry. So it should contain at least one chiral carbon. If the molecule contain only one chiral carbon, it will be perfectly optically active compound. It will show this phenomenon. But if suppose more than one chiral carbon is there, then we have to see that it should not contain plane of symmetry. There are many examples where more than one chiral carbons are there, but due to the presence of symmetry, they are not optically active. So disymmetric should be also there, and chiral carbon should also be there. And let me give you some more examples, such as here you see, this is lactic acid, and again the carbon, this is chiral center, and the carbon is attached to 4 different groups, hence it is optically active. You can give this is 2-chlorobutane, and here also the carbon marked by star, it is chiral carbon, since it also contain 4 different groups. So the first condition is that the molecule should be disymmetric. The other condition is that it should contain chiral carbon. And the third condition, and a very important condition, is that it should be non-superimposable on its mirror image. So the next condition is that it should be non-superimposable on its mirror image. Now you know that if you see your left hand in the mirror, then its image is just like your right hand. And but if you keep your hand on the left hand, see this is this hand, this is my right hand, and the mirror image of this is my left hand, right? But if I keep my this left hand on the right hand, it cannot cover it. Non-superimposable means it should not cover, so it is not covering this. It means these two hands are non-superimposable mirror images. So for optical activity also, the compound should be non-superimposable mirror images. Then if two compounds, they are non-superimposable mirror images and optical isomers of each other, they are also known as enantiomers. What they are known as? Enantiomers, right? So optical isomers which are non-superimposable mirror images of each other, they are known as enantiomers. And enantiomers, they differ in rotation of plane polarized light. They rotate the plane polarized light equally in opposite direction, right? They possess same physical properties like melting point, boiling point, solubility, refractive index, but they differ only in the rotation of plane polarized light. If one of the enantiomer is dextrorotatory, the other will be levorotatory. Understood? Here one more example. It is C, this molecule P. This P mirror images is second one. But when you keep these mirror images on each other, they will not superimpose. So they are non-superimposable mirror images. Now I will show you enantiomers of butane 2-ol. This is Vejen-Dash formula. So the mirror image of this will be this is C2H5, this is CH3, and here we have OH. lateral inversion happens in the case of mirror images. Now you can see that they are mirror images and they are non-superimposable, because if you are going to keep this here, they will not cover each other. Even if you rotate this at 180 degree, you rotate it at 180 degree, then this H will come here, CH3 will come here, this OH will go here, C2H5 will come here, but this will impose. But this, since CH3 will go up and H will come down, they will not impose on each other. Hence they are non-superimposable mirror images of each other, and they are enantiomers. Now out of them, one will be dextrorotatory and the other will be levorotatory. We cannot identify them by seeing, because it is experimental only. Now next, many other concepts are there for isomerism. Since this video is going very long, therefore we will cover it tomorrow. Have a good day.